Father Love and I this week did our vacation in St. Louis. We were visiting the seminarians up there and praying and relaxing. And it's very appropriate what I want to speak about this Sunday really flows from my experience, not this past week, because I've had this experience before, but in this location is one of the places that has really hit home to me. We were at the Oratory of St. Francis de Sales in St. Louis, and there's a picture of it in the bulletin. If you didn't get your bulletin, you can grab one on the way out to see what I mean. But the truth which this oratory drives home, and which is something which is very Catholic and behind my motives as a parish priest, is that if you are in an appropriately constructed and ornamented Catholic church, it practically prays for itself. It practically prays for itself. A properly constructed and ornamented church is going to be described in the words that Jacob used in Genesis. This is the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. So I want to talk about this concept a little bit as we continue talking here and there about deepening our prayer lives and praying better. Obviously, the first thing we need to consider in coming into a church and praying in a church is that we need to find the Blessed Sacrament. Unfortunately, in some places we have to be Mary Magdalene and ask, "They have taken my Lord and I don't know where they have placed him." But in many places, our Lord is where he belongs, centrally located as the focus of our adoration. And again, hopefully in a somewhat obvious way, there should be a red candle indicating that he is present as a signal. So we should always find our Lord, make a good visit to the Blessed Sacrament, and spend time with prayer with the, what we call, prisoner of love, who makes himself available for us in our tabernacles, waiting for us. Now, the rest of the time, and a lot of this I have to add, is mainly for those who find themselves in church, often under duress. And here I'm speaking about children, teenagers especially, and sometimes husbands. Okay? We want to recall that the time we spend in the church is not wasted time, and that even if we're not praying a rosary or whatever, some particular devotion, we can still have a very valuable spiritual experience. Obviously, we should be doing things like praying our rosaries, our regular prayers, our devotions, the spiritual exercises. But I also want to focus on, and again, particularly today, using the church itself. One of the things that I enjoy doing in places like the Oratory of St. Francis de Sales is to just walk around the church and look at the iconography, to appreciate the beauty of it, and, of course, more importantly, to talk to our Lord and the saints represented in that art. Obviously, we know that the statues and images are not Jesus himself. They are not Our Lady. They are not the saints themselves. But because of the fact that we are body, soul, composites, and that we use our senses in spiritual activities, it's very good, especially with our weak imaginations, to have these images. And again, if you're engaging with maybe a Protestant who wants to accuse us Catholics of idolatry, it's the same thing as having, you used to say a photo in your wallet, but these days it's the photo on your phone, right? Because that's where you put your loved ones, right? Although it's often trucks, but that's another story. So, because of our weak imaginations, we need to have this imagery to help direct our attention, and it is extremely helpful, and that's why our churches should be full of these images, so we can spend time looking at them. Among those, of course, one of the more important ones is the Via Crucis, the way of the cross. Again, to walk the way of the cross, meditating as we go. We don't need to have a particular booklet of meditations. We don't have to have St. Alphonsus Liguori, although he is the best. Whatever it is, just simply looking and raising our heart and mind to God is a fruitful meditation. And ultimately, of course, we can just sit. It, of course, helps when we have high roofs and your attention is more directed. Now, we're doing all right here. We could do with a couple more feet. But to fact that I'm going straight to hell. So, it's not an issue. In fact, the construction of the church and its ornamentation should help those who have trouble focusing bring our attention back constantly to where it belongs. But ultimately, any time we spend in the church is valuable as long as we have the right intention and as long as we are spending that time in silent prayer and directing our hearts and minds to God. It is valuable. But take advantage of what you have in your churches, and again, please feel free to use them. It is not disrespectful. Now, I should add, please don't be taking this advice of wandering around during Mass, at least not the parts where I'm facing and preaching, right? It's also disrespectful to the people who are trying to pray if you're doing it when I'm facing the Lord and talking to Him. But the point is that at other times, feel free to appreciate the different mysteries of the faith represented in the various stages of our Lord's life and various meditations, because it's here for